Welcome to Game of Roses. This is Pacecase.
This is Bachelorclues, and of course, this weekend we all watched the second drop of Love Is Blind Season 8, the most boring season in the history of the franchise. Oh,
Minnesota.
wow, you're repping for your
I
crew.
even if it's the most boring season, I am repping
Yeah.
Minnesota via my sweatshirt.
You know what I was most
And
pissed about in this drop?
what?
We didn't get to see those Minnesota boys.
They're
Dave
friends?
was going to have his friends come over until he got into that fight with Lauren, and then he was like, yeah, it's best they don't
We
come
were
over. I was like,
teased with those friends all
show me the
episode.
Minnesota boys. Where's the Minnesota boys? I need to see the
Does
Minnesota
he
boys.
are these friends even real?
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Does this man have friends? That's the true question. We're going to cover
He's teasing us
basically,
with them. I don't know if they're real.
yeah, if you don't see them, even if you do see them, they may not be real. But I'll tell you what is real: Topo Chico, tangerine, and ginger extract.
Mm.
Drink it and get in the game.
LaCroix boys, if you drink one, you'll be able to see the secret cut out of the document Minnesota boys, probably.
Mm. Well, we don't know. They never showed up, I think, because he disinvited them. He was like, we got into such a
They were,
kerfuffle over Lauren having sex before coming into the experiment. Can you believe it?
I mean, look, this is like essentially the main plot that we're following this season.
Yeah.
I kind of teased this in my Scream last week, but I am connected to some people in the cast, and I do know the F buddy personally. So I feel like I should just say that up front.
Okay. Well, we'll get to him. Let's
Mm-hmm.
start this recap of drop number 2 by saying this was 3 episodes. The first drop, 6 episodes, all in the pods. The second drop, 3 episodes. Usually, I'll say usually, my favorite part of every season is the honeymoon phase. Not only do you get to see who is getting through that chemistry play to have sex before everybody else who is not, you also get to see the couples meet up with each other. And in most seasons, that means that different pieces of love triangles are going to see each other for the first
Mm-hmm.
time. If you've notched down or if you've chosen this one over that one, well, you get to see the person that you didn't choose. And oh shit, what happens if you're a little more attracted to them than you might have been to the person you chose? And that's always fascinating to see how
Mm-hmm.
that plays out. I'll never
Well,
forget.
it's why they the mishandling of the love square is so detrimental. It not only
Yeah.
affects the relationships getting engaged, but it affects this stage where you're supposed to be following some sort of
Yeah,
triangle or anything. We were following
absolutely.
nothing.
The main characters of the pods of the first 6 episodes of the season are no longer present for the rest of the TV show. This is bad in terms of producing. You have to look at what you have. And I know Chris Cohen has come out in that article and said, we followed the stories where they took us. Well, you had 2 other couples who agreed to get engaged in Brittany and Mo. Brittany then called it off, or Brittany then called it off based on some problematic shit Mo said. We've done some videos about this. Go back and check if you like. And then there was also Kylie and Brian. Now, we've seen on Kylie's Instagram, she has posted a picture of her and Brian together. They're together now. I don't know what the actuality of it was. Did they get engaged and married on the show? Did they just decide, let's keep dating outside the show? I'm not exactly sure why they're still together, but I have some ideas. We will talk about those as we get into this recap. So, this
I mean,
recap starts.
presumably that's why they cut. That's why we didn't see anything from this portion. Um,
Yes,
is
that
my
is.
guess is because there were 2 extra couples there they had to cut around.
Well, we know Brittany and Mo did not go there. They did not go to Honduras. She has
Okay.
said that they opted to not do that and just like see where things would go. And then, some of the problematic things he said made her call it off. At least that's what Storytime with Ricky is reporting. Um, the thing with Kylie and Brian, though, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's
Okay,
start where
yeah,
this
as
3
we
drop
often do.
starts with the conclusion of Daniel and Taylor talking about, did he follow her on Instagram before they came into the show. Now,
Mhm.
we have learned from Natalie of Out of the Pods podcast. By the way, if you haven't heard it yet, our Digging Deeper came out today, where we talk about this very clip from a recent episode of Out of the Pods, where Natalie says She followed and looked at a bunch of the guys that were on her season before she went into the season because she
They
looked
all
at the
do.
casting. What's that?
They all do. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm now convinced Love Isn't Blind at all.
I don't think it is either. Natalie basically outlined this procedure whereby an incoming player can look at the casting director or casting producer that they're dealing with to get cast on the show, see who they're following, see what city they're in, and basically just deduce, well, here's all the guys that are going to be on my season. So I think very usually at this point, I mean, there's no way she's the only person doing this. I think this is common.
Yeah.
And so to call Daniel out for it
I
like
think for
this,
a fact this is
wild.
common. I think what we're seeing in the Lauren and Dave storyline, where he has mutual friends, has met the guy that Lauren was with, kind of shows you that this is a tangled web. And I don't know what to believe. What do you think about this Christmas situation? Do you think that
That
this
he likes
man,
Christmas.
do you think he remembers that he followed her on Instagram?
I don't know. It's hard to say if he's lying or not. Imagine that you're in that situation. Imagine being him, for example. You're this everything's going great. You really like this person, you've proposed, you've fallen in love, supposedly, whatever. That's what you're conveying, at least. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not.
My
But
parents
you're
are
moving
really
to the
cute and whimsical.
yeah, you're doing your whimsical Christmas play. But you're moving on to the next phase of the game. And then right at that moment, it's like, we're leaving for Honduras tomorrow. Actually, hang on one second. She wants to talk to you in the lobby of the hotel you're in right now. Oh shit, what is this about? And then she blows this thing up on him. I think you followed me on Instagram. I think you used all my personal information in my Instagram account to lure me into a web of deceit, making me think that there are all these synchronicities and commonalities we have, but you're just lying about it. And he has to now prove like that's not true. That's the only tack you can take in this
Mhm.
moment. Whether it is not true or is true, irrelevant. His only defense from this attack is to say, I don't remember following you. Maybe it
Yeah.
happened. He plays it perfectly. And he
Because
plays this
otherwise
kind of,
it's like, why didn't you say right away that you had
yeah.
followed me, you know?
And something interesting happens in this first scene. We see a producer come in and give her phone at a time when no other player gets it. And we are now introduced to this idea that following up on these people, seeking out their backgrounds, fact checking who they are, and finding out if they're good or bad people, liars or truth tellers, that's on you now, the player.
Yeah.
We are producers. We're
This
not going to help you. Here's your phone. Do it yourself. I found that fascinating.
this whole scene was so fascinating because they do give off, like you were saying in your corner, they give off like they are prisoners, and they are specifically like not allowed to go to any other section of Instagram except for this
Yeah.
one follower list, and they're like very sure to make that distinction. This producer, who is unnamed, but who scares the shit out of these two players, was my Jorge Moreno bystander of the week.
Yeah. This producer was also my Jorge Moreno bystander of the week. I mean, you don't usually, especially in Love is Blind, you don't usually see the producers ever. I mean, you don't really in Bachelor either. Every once in a while, you'll
No.
see a shadow emerge to be like, oh my God, can I get you a tissue for your tears? But here we
Love is
see,
Blind will have, like, one, like, off camera line said to them that they
yeah,
responded to, that they just didn't get, like, the whole sentence of them saying.
throw in an ITM or something. But here you
Yeah.
see this producer come out, and then another producer comes out as well. It's one producer sent in to say, do you want your phone? Yes, I do. Another producer comes in with the phone. And then we are treated to what seems like 20 minutes of footage of her just scrolling through her followed list and not finding his name, by the
It
way.
was so long.
Yes.
Why?
I can tell you why. This season sucks. They don't have enough footage to make it a season. And that's what we are watching, the result of bad producing in every episode of this season. But nonetheless, Taylor here scrolls through her phone for what seems like 2 hours and then doesn't find his name and eventually acquiesces on the whole thing. She's like, I'm crazy. I'm stupid. I shouldn't have done this. I don't know if that's right.
Mhm.
I think in this process, if
I
you're
don't know
feeling
either.
anything where like a person might be lying to you or trying to trick you, you got to figure that shit out because you're being asked to legally wed somebody after knowing them for 10 days.
And your instinct, I would trust those instincts.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. And like it's just because I kind of watch these episodes a couple times, and you
Mhm,
see those pod conversations between them where he's like, "I remember people's Instagram handles.
mhm.
I wonder if we met in real life.
Yeah,
Uh, whatever." But honestly, I'll say that his meeting of the family made me trust him more. He seemed more for TRR after
sure.
meeting his parents.
Well, he also, like, in this first scene, he plays it perfectly. He puts out a kind of patience play defense where he's like, "Look, I get it. I don't feel bad about this at all. You had to bring this up to
Mhm.
me, and I'm here for the right reasons, and, like, whatever you need to do to feel good about this, I fully support it." He plays it perfectly, gets back in her good graces, and we bypass this thing that was like it was a cliffhanger, and then he immediately destroys it. So even in terms of producing the season, even that is bad. They cliffhung the first 6 episodes on something that turned out to be nothing.
Yes. Nothing. Unless it comes up again,
Yeah.
this is a false cliffhanger. Don't do this to
Yeah.
us.
She goes to his, place, and there's just, like, printed out pictures of her Instagram photos all over his walls,
Yeah.
psychopath strings in between them. "She was at this restaurant and this restaurant. This is how I could maybe, in quotes, accidentally bump into her. I'm gonna orchestrate I'm gonna orchestrate our love story of fake synchronicities."
It just says, like, fake synchronicities, and there's
Yeah.
a bunch of bullet points on the whiteboard,
Exactly.
like, what could
"Must
they
love
be?
Christmas." Okay, let's move
There's
on.
all
So
the attempts he got to match the stocking. "No, I didn't get it. I need a different one."
it's just like there's a sewing machine in the corner with a bunch of
Yeah.
felt just laying around the floor. He's made like 200 different stockings to try and exactly get it right. Okay, so we
Uh,
move on now to the portion of our program in which we go on the honeymoons. This is in Honduras at this nice hotel, as it always is. I will give Love Is Blind props where it's due. The environments they put them in for the honeymoon are always fantastic. Um, I would love to have stayed here. Just kidding. I don't like the sun, the beach, or the waves.
mhm. But you coulda done the inside fantasy suite shots where it's just full blasted overhead lighting. That's
Yeah.
always what I'm thinking about in these scenes. I'm like, they're hooking up in literally the brightest light on the
Hell
planet.
yeah. How else you do it?
Nightmare. Mm-mm.
Lights everywhere.
Darkness.
Bright as you can get
Tiny
them.
little candles. What could be happening? Who knows? There's
Yeah.
shadows.
It's not even you. You switch somebody out for yourself in the black darkness of the night.
I,
Um,
was watching this with someone, they were like, "Damn, that is explicit, how much they're having sex," and I was like, "You don't even know." There was one season I remember where they were, like, hooking up in the shower, and it was like,
yeah.
you felt uncomfortable watching. You're like, "I should not be here."
Yes, I totally agree. This season pretty sexless. We
Yeah.
get some confirmation at the meetup, which we'll get to. Let's first just talk about each one of these things. We
Mhm.
only get one episode of the honeymoon phase of the honeymoon in Honduras. Usually you get a couple, and usually there's some like interesting plot things happening. I remember last season with Nick Dorcas riding on the duck or
Yeah.
whatever. He was riding some kind of animal on the beach against the wishes of his fiance, and she got the ick from him. That was like a whole thing that
Mhm.
stretched out over 2 episodes. She kept bringing it up again and again, and that was great. Here we have nothing. Everything's going great. Even when they come together at the group meetup, all the guys are like, "Yep, everything's fine." Dave has a kind of preoccupation with who has had sex and who has not, and that seems to be he's at least being edited to make you believe that's the first and only thing he's talking about
Yeah,
with
that he's
anyone.
obsessed with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he seems like a sex, a sex researcher
yeah,
during this date.
exactly. And it's like I know
I
it's painting him to be a bad guy, but I kind of get it. Like if that part of your relationship, that really in this situation, in this in quotes experiment, I think is it's the one thing that you can't account for until you're face to face and you see if there really is chemistry in physical proximity, all that stuff. And if it's not happening for you, I would be kind of curious about was it happening for other people? Is this a problem in my relationship or is this just how this works? You know?
I would not be asking this on camera. I would watch all the previous seasons to see whether people tend to have sex during this portion.
Yeah, well that is it's
He's
clear
giving
the
them the
guys don't
worst
watch the
footage.
show. And
Yeah.
this is true of Bachelor, it's true of all the dating games primarily. Not like Love Island or Too Hot to Handle, because I think those guys going into those shows are specifically going in to be reality stars. And so they've watched the prior seasons to play the game. This doesn't seem like that. They might be going into it to think like maybe I'll become a reality star out of this, but I don't think they know how to do it. I don't think they've watched people from prior seasons and don't know the blueprint. They're just like, I'll go in the show and get famous. And it's like, that ain't how this works, dude. You got to play the game properly.
You got to DM Bachelor Clues. You got to get strategy going in.
For anybody out there watching this who's going into Love is Blind or any of these games, DM me. I can help you maximize everything you want to get out of this game. It kills me when I see guys going into these games and just floundering. You know,
Yeah.
they're going in by the seat of their pants. They have no game plan, and they're just like, "Well, see what happens." And this is what happens, Dave. This is what happens. You get turned into a massive villain because you're saying dumb shit every time the camera's on you. It's unbelievable.
It is wild, and it's pretty much all we get from this portion. You know, I was thinking about how they transition from this to when they get their phones back.
Mhm.
That all needs to be on camera, because what
Absolutely.
I think would have been an actual good mid-season cliffhanger is the whole thing with Lauren and Dave and this third person,
Mhm.
um, who ends up living in the building. And we
Yeah.
don't know when they're finding this information out.
It's
It
cut
is
to
very
shit.
confusing.
It's terrible. I
Um,
mean, before we get into them moving into the building, let's
mhm,
talk about the party where they all meet each other. This is a huge moment every season when the players all get to see the other couples and they get to glow each other and say they look good together, which we see
mhm,
that happen a lot in this episode. But generally speaking, that party usually serves to play out some of the love triangle plots. Like, are you really over that person? Are we still good? I remember
mhm.
who was it? Bartice told Nancy, I forget who his love triangle component was, but he told Nancy that he was physically attracted to whoever it was, just massive errors. People get drunk, they do stupid things.
Mhm.
This meetup party was terrible. No new information is presented except Dave walking around wanting to know who had sex. Everyone else is like, "Yep, you guys look good together. Everything's going great with
Yeah.
us." Okay,
"You
talk to
guys
you
look
later.
together" was said maybe 50,000
Yeah.
times.
And if you notice in the shooting of it,
Okay.
most of this is played out in these forced chats between one person and one person. So you'll have like a guy from one couple talking to a woman from another couple, and they're talking about how they both of their other significant others are great and everything's fine and everything looks fantastic. That I think is because I don't have proof of this, but I believe that Kylie and Brian were there. And in order to cut this event, they had to cut them out of all the footage. So you see very few full group shots because I believe they probably were there in that group and they had to cut around them. And that's why I think it was
I
so
also
bad.
think this is true.
We don't know. We have no evidence of
We
that, but that's
we
what it
do get
seems like.
information that Sarah and Ben have had sex, it seems. There's an implied consummation here. So that is some information
Yes.
we get.
And I believe Joey and Monica as well, right? Or did she say
Yes.
everything
Yeah,
but
there's an
or something?
implied consummation,
Yeah,
I think, with that one as well.
right. Even though they have kind of, in my opinion, a brother sister type energy. Could be wrong. But
What?
yeah,
He fit in a little too well in the fam jam, you're saying?
exactly. Exactly. Anytime somebody's asking for the tambourine in the fam jam who's not part of the fam, that's a red flag. So
I don't know. Don't do they're the only couple that is coming off for
yeah.
TRR to me, so
Well, okay, let's
I'm
let's
rooting
get to
for
that.
'em.
We come out of the honeymoon phase essentially, and we find Dave and Lauren now bring up this thing. He knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who went on a skiing trip with somebody that opened a bakery with somebody who one time had a beer with the guy that she had a friends with benefits relationship with up until a few days or a week. We don't know the exact timeline, but sometime kind of recently before the show. This is our first introduction to this idea, and it's going to come back obviously in the end of the third episode as well, or toward the near the end of the third episode. So just generally speaking, it's my kind of overall view of these types of games that's fine. Anything anyone does up till the final second before cameras start rolling is fine. You're not in the show yet. Therefore, you're not dating any of these people yet. And it's not like she was married or had a significant boyfriend. They've drugged people through the mud over that. Trevor 2 seasons ago came in with a girlfriend supposedly, and they made him kind of like eat crow on the reunion show because he also was going to be on Perfect Match that season.
No, the whole plot line has a very like slut-shamey vibe to me of like women
Absolutely.
shouldn't have friends with benefits, or like you need to have your like stay pure for a certain amount of time before this experiment. And it's like, first of all, it is for TRR because if you actually are going on and trying to get engaged, it totally makes sense to do one last
For
bang when you're
sure.
gonna go commit
Yes.
yourself to one
I
person.
said this on the Clues Corner. I'm like, that's
100%.
you want that. You want somebody to be
And
like, get it all out of your fucking system, come in here and be like, all right, now I'm ready to go, you know? It's crazy to me that
it
this
it
dude's
is
like
lu
6
it
months
is
at least.
lunacy. I literally, like, I personally look, I don't know any of these people except for some of them. You don't know any of these people, and these are all real human beings, I cannot stress that enough. Real human beings, and you're only seeing a slice of their life,
Yeah.
perhaps their worst moments, of their life, and so don't send any of them hate or anything, but I hate this storyline because it comes off to me like the self-proclaimed, shallow Hal man he said he was, and
Yeah.
he was so into women's looks. It totally comes off to me like he's not attracted to Lauren and is just looking for an out that makes him
Yeah.
seem not like a villain.
I don't know if he's not attracted to her or not. I can't I don't get any indication whether he is or is not. It seems like maybe he is enough at least. But to me, I agree with you. He is looking for an out. And I think in all these shows, bachelors like this as well, really any of these dating shows where you're forced into this kind of condensed time frame to fall in love and get married, I think most people, unless that works so well, and you're like with Joey and Monica, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm out over heels with her, and she's my perfect lady, and I met my soulmate. This is my Minnesota. It's not even close, but
Oh, you betcha. We are
yeah.
gonna fam jam. Oh,
I
yeah.
I want to
You know?
shake my long hairs at your fam jam. Can I play the tambourine? Anyways, I think other than those kind of A couples every season, and you have them every season, Brett Brown, Tiffany Pennywell are kind of a great example of this. I would say Lauren Speed, Cameron Hamilton was his last name. In my mind, he's Cameron Speed now. Uh,
Yeah. He is.
that was in season one. I think you have these kind of linchpin A couples where like nothing bad ever happens. The process works perfectly. They found their soulmate and they get married and live happily ever after. For everybody else,
Drama is whether they can tailor the pants before the wedding,
yeah,
and that's
exactly.
fine.
You've got too many shoes. The other flip side of that is, though, and I think this is what is common for most of the couples, is you go into this thing and you're like, what the hell is this? I am feeling some real feelings toward this person, but it is this weird reality TV show. I have only known them for 10 days, and you're looking for anything to attach to that will give you a justified reason to end the relationship or what you perceive to be justified in the kind of rules, the unwritten rules of the game. And I think Dave has mistakenly identified this thing that she was having sex with some guy in a friends with benefits scenario. He's viewing that as like, this could be my out, not realizing that it makes him look fucking terrible. He's the villain of the season now because of it. But I think while he was shooting, he felt justified in this and like the audience will be on my side because she has somehow
Oh,
fouled the
100%.
process.
It definitely seems like he thinks that she is the villain, getting the
Yeah.
villain edit in this situation, and therefore Dave miscalculating and continuing to press uh this kind of slut-shamey anti-friends with benefits narrative for Lauren was my error of the game.
This, I mean, Dave doing this like hardcore power slut shame is my error of the season. I don't know that anything worse could be happening to a player. Like you could probably have somebody punch somebody in the face at the altar, and I don't think it'll be as bad as this
I
because he
mean, he's
just keeps
making
hitting.
Ben What's Black Lives Matter look good with
Oh
this,
no, I forgot
like,
about that. I forgot about that's probably the error of the season. Let's be real. That's gonna haunt him
I mean,
forever.
I'm so curious how that storyline is gonna play out with the TikTok, which we'll get to, but
Yeah.
yeah, he needs to come up with, I think, with a better solution than this, because this is not an unwritten rule of Love Is Blind that you can't hook up with people before the show.
Of
They're all
course.
dating multiple people in the experiment.
Of course. If you I mean, I won't speak on anybody specifically, but like Bachelor, let's take that franchise. I
Mhm.
do have some firsthand knowledge of people's relationships prior to going into the bubble.
Yeah.
It's like it's very common that you're getting in some last minute action before you go 2 fucking months without it, and you
Oh,
might not even wind up in a fantasy suite, and even if you do, it might be Joan Vassos where you got no beds. Like, you're
you
putting
got no
yourself in a
bed.
position where you're cutting
Your
yourself
last chance
off.
for the bed.
You're cutting yourself off from potentially having sex for, like, 2 months. So, do you wanna make sure that you get a little in before you go in?
I
Probably.
would guess, I mean, they pretty much only cast at this point in the franchise conventionally attractive people.
Mhm.
So, I imagine all of these people have multiple, sexual partner options, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the case the majority of the time.
Yeah.
I know it has gotten villainized. I'm thinking of, there was a Bachelor plot where one player was, like, FaceTiming a guy the night before she left, and that came up. I can't
Cassidy
remember what
Timbrooks.
season. Cassidy Timbrooks, that's what it was.
That
Yes,
was on
she got
Clayton
villainized
Ector, The
for that.
Ultimate Viking
So,
season.
it has been used before,
Mhm.
but I again, it's like, we're in 2025. It's
If we're
mostly
in
women
any
watching
year,
the
who cares?
show. Please
I just
don't do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Like, um, again, I really do think it's Dave looking for what he believes to be a justified out.
Yeah.
I think he is kind of caught in this trap of the process, in quotes, the experiment. He doesn't really trust it. And I think anybody who gets involved in a love triangle, I think is probably more likely to not trust it because it was like, shit, I was feeling the same way basically about two people and had to make this kind of last minute 11th hour decision to go this way, but
Oh,
maybe I fucked
he
up.
keeps
And
bringing up the other option.
yeah,
He keeps saying like, "Oh, well, I cut it off with her because she had gotten out of a relationship 6 months ago." He's making it even worse, doubling down.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's tough to watch this error.
Mhm.
You gotta come up with something else, and he's playing against, in my opinion, the best of the best. Lauren, I think she's one of the best players all season. She's not gonna give
Totally.
him the out. Look at the scene with
Absolutely.
the spin friends. No outs
Absolutely.
to be
We'll
seen
get
in
to Spin
sight.
Friends. Yeah. I mean, that the Spin Friends scene, let's just talk about it. Well, no, let's talk about the meetings of the families first,
Yeah,
because
let's
that
go
kind of
in
comes
order.
next.
Yeah.
So these meetings of the families all go extremely well. Nobody has any problems. There's a little Adams familying going on with Monica's sister, who's older than her, and is like, I should be the one getting married. Is this guy really the guy for you? He's not your type. She launches a bunch of attacks to kind of like kick Joey out. Unfortunately, right before that, Joey was the star guest performer in Monica's Fam Jam.
I'm like, "What do you mean nothing happened in these? They were standard." We saw the Fam Jam.
Yeah.
I loved this.
The Fam Jam is maybe one of the greatest group family performances in a meeting of the family that we have ever seen in any franchise. I've never seen anything like it. That dude, the boyfriend of Monica's sister, who Monica bequeathed him unto her because they were dating prior. It's all very convoluted. But
That was confusing.
yeah, I think it was a guy that Monica was talking to on some app, and then she told that guy, "You'd actually be good for my sister." She hooked her sister up with the guy. They're now together in some capacity, but not married, obviously. We found that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that dude is like
This
immediately there. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
this jealous sister who says
Oh,
Fam Jam vibes are good, I'm gonna kick this storyline in another direction, who plays this kind of bad cop family player, gets my Sweetnum's Familial Award of the drop.
what?
I just
Wow,
thought she's
fascinating.
going for it. She gets a
Yeah.
scene. Um, it is a villain character for sure.
Mhm,
They cut her to be like essentially too jealous of Monica to approve of him of
mhm.
of Joey, and she's never approved of anyone. But I respected that she got this scene like just to herself to be starring in.
Yeah.
Um, and put a little, even for your A couple, you need some little storyline to overcome. So in this case, she's setting it up that to get the sister's blessing might be something we see in coming episodes.
Yeah, and we see a later scene where he's folding his shirts, and he doesn't like how he's folding. He's getting his folding techniques are getting messed up by thinking about the sister's blessing and all of that.
The
But
sister's blessing. We
my
do need to talk about also the sock basket. That was
yes,
strange.
you never done this? You never shared socks with your parents?
Maybe a significant other.
I've never shared socks with anyone.
Hmm.
I found it
Sorry.
disturbing as well, but to each their
Yeah.
own. This is not my family. However, the boyfriend who, when the musical instrument bin is passed around, immediately reaches for the flute, stands up, and does a flute performance for the whole family, a solo, was my Sweet Numbs familial player of the game. This dude knew what the hell he was doing. Did you see also how they shot it? They had a camera operator putting that camera on the ground, shooting up into the dad's face from like
Yeah.
a worm's eye perspective as he's hitting the bongos and shit. I mean, this was a work of art. I don't know that we're going to see something like this maybe ever again in terms of a meeting of the family. Bachelor or Love is Blind or any other game that may come in the future. I don't know. This family came to play, and play
I
they
thought
did.
that.
Musical instruments.
The that meme where it's like suddenly like a whole family of people goes and like gets their weapons out of the kitchen drawers and stuff. It felt like that
Oh
same
yeah.
energy to me, where it's just like suddenly just like
Yeah.
everyone grabs stuff and like knows what to do and it's chaos.
Sure.
Like it had the same energy of that to me.
No, totally. It
Loved
was
it.
great. But that was unfortunately the only entertaining meeting of the family. There was another
Mhm.
one later that has a pig. When we see I think that's Devin's family, right? They have a pet pig.
Oh yeah,
And that
gigantic.
was like, okay, they had
That gigantic pet pig was my creature of the week.
yes, the pet pig, I forget his name now, Chico maybe or something like that, was also my creature of the week. But other than that and the fam jam, these meetings of the families
Mhm.
were boring in my opinion. They all went perfectly. We got blessings, we got glows in a lot of situations. The only family really that was offering up any kind of problem was damn Daniel and Taylor, Taylor's mom and dad. Her mom was kind of like, well, I don't know about this. But then Daniel's family shows up and like leaves that immediately.
They were fantastic, his
Yeah.
parents. Like, I think they helped his case against Villain edit,
Mhm.
substantially.
So we
Um
then finally come to there's like some meetings of the friends, and one of them is this important one that takes place at a spin class where Dave is being forced to do spin by Lauren. I thought this was cruel and unusual punishment. I myself went
have
to
you
a
ever
spin
done this?
class once. Yes, I did this exact scenario. It was a girlfriend of mine who
Oh,
was way into spin
it's the
classes, like,
exact
you got to
scenario.
come do this with me. And I was like, all right. And I hated it. It was very hard for me. I didn't like doing it.
One of my friends, like, threw up after one, and I was like, "I'm
Mhm.
never gonna do that," and I never have.
Yeah. I'm more like Dave with regard to he says he has his workout routine that he likes to do by himself. I'm the exact same way. I have
Yeah,
my
me
weights that I
too.
lift, I have my basketballs that I play. Shout out to Grant. And I have my swimmings that I do.
Just like Dave, I do not like being told what to do, which is in my imagination, that's all exercise classes.
Yeah, it is. You're
Yeah.
just commanded and demanded. But after this exercise class, they sit down with two of Lauren's friends who then further this plot line of her friends with benefits. And this is the guy that's in your extended circle of friends to some degree. Back in Minnesota.
Yes. And, they reference their old coworker who used to date, um, him for 7 years, and that person is also my friend.
You know the person that was with him for 7 years that he did not
Yeah.
marry. And so they paint
She's one of my close friends, actually.
I see. And so in that moment, they paint him, this mystery
Mhm.
guy, as a very bad person who wasted 7 years of this woman's life.
I can say with 100% accuracy that that is false.
Okay, so that's just a lie the
There's
friends
a
are telling.
false narrative of that relationship, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so none of these people that they're talking about are there to correct this information, defend themselves, offer any new insights from firsthand experience in the situation. It is just people doing hearsay to try and make Lauren look better.
I
And
mean, the one friend shares a DM about, like, "Let's blow up this relationship,"
that was a DM from the guy
from the guy from the friend with benefits, yeah.
sending it to who?
To
One of those two friends?
yeah,
And so
the one on the right.
they're painting him as somebody who wants to sabotage.
Get on TV,
Okay, right.
sabotage, yeah.
And we don't know if any of that is true. Again, because no one is there to refute this or offer any counter narrative. It's simply now the producers choosing to air hearsay about a third party who is not in the show about their life. That person, although not mentioned by name, obviously everybody in that circle of friends knows exactly who they're talking about. That person's life is now being drastically affected by the things that are being put in this reality show. They are not in the reality show. They have not signed up for any of this. And we are getting, I think, a situation that is not exactly similar, but it has a similar effect on a person's life as what happened to Bry Thomas last year when Tyler Francis lied about his relationship with the kids that he has with her. And she then felt obligated essentially to start making Instagram reels and doing interviews to try and set the record straight or at least get her side of the story out there.
Mhm.
And
To be
I
like,
maybe
"He
that will
did
happen
know
here.
these kids, like, they're not
Yeah.
just sperm babies."
Oh,
Yeah.
sperm babies. How could I forget that? Beautiful
Yeah,
phrase.
it's so odd watching this scene as someone who, like, knows who they are talking about, and yeah, it just sucks, like, yeah, to watch things that you know are, like, actually factually false be, like, said on here. I mean, Lauren is reinforcing this story. She posted a Vulture interview this week, where she accuses this person of seeking fame. Um, I just like any of that accusation. I'm like, what do you mean you're on Love Is Blind? What are you doing? Like,
Exactly. Let's see where
huh?
she's at right now. I think she's one of the ones who's kind of getting a big boost.
It reminds me of Bachelor in Paradise. I want to say it was Deandra, who was like, those people just want to be on TV. The shot of them like sitting in the
Yeah.
pool.
Meanwhile, there's like 5 cameras immediately around her
Yeah,
broadcasting TV.
that's what it
Lauren right
reminds
now
me.
has 34.6 followers. And
Mm.
she
What's
ain't
Dave
making her
at?
Instagram private and she ain't taking it offline. You tell me.
What's Dave at?
What's that?
What's Dave's Instagram at?
Let's see. I don't think he's doing as well. I don't think any of the guys are doing as well. Dave Bettenberg
I
is
would
at
imagine only Joey would do
12.4.
well.
Let's
Mm.
see. We'll do a quick check in on all of them. Joey is at 11.2. Monica is at 19.1. Who else we got? Ben is at 17.6. Sarah, his fiance, is at 23.8. We've got Virginia. She is currently at 10.5. We've got Devin, who is currently at 5.9. He's so far as bringing up the rear. Who are we missing? Um,
Joey and
oh,
Monica?
we already did them. We are missing Daniel and Taylor. Let's see. Daniel is Daniel Hastings. He's at 29.1. And
Dang.
Taylor T. Hags is at 58.2. She's in the lead right now of all the current couples
Wowee.
for those keeping score.
Alright, good for you, T-Hags.
But yeah, this scene I thought in the gym was it was just like irresponsible producing. And I know that this season has almost no drama in it whatsoever. That again falls on the producers and how they've chosen to manufacture it. Nonetheless, they're trying to scrape and scratch for anything they can get. And we know through this dude whose name is also Dan, right?
I cannot say.
Okay. We know well, then we won't talk about that, I guess, but we know that, this story is being furthered, and there have been at least some things online popping up that lead us to believe the producers wanted him, this Friends with Benefits, to come into the show in one
Mhm.
capacity or another, probably just to use him to kick him in the nuts and discard him. However, I have to assume at the time of shooting that gym scene, the producers might have been thinking, we can still get this guy in the show.
Mhm.
I don't know. So, nonetheless, they chose to air this stuff a year after they shot it. They cut this and said, put that in the show. We don't give a fuck what it does to this guy's life. This kind of
Mhm.
irresponsible producing, I think, is like, is there a lawsuit coming because of this? Because this guy 100% is
100%.
getting death threats, 100%. And he was not in the show, didn't want to be a part of the show.
I mean, I feel like a lawsuit is inevitable, but I have no idea. Maybe the Renee Poche thing has scared people away for
But
some time, but
he didn't sign up for the show. Renee Poche signed a
Mhm.
contract with Kinetic Content and Netflix saying, I will not disparage the show or
Right.
talk about producing practices. She then did. They then sued her for $4 million. This dude, if he ain't in the show, he ain't signed nothing. He can do whatever he wants at all
Mhm.
times. We'll see. Time will tell on that one. All right, let's move on. So all of that happens, and then we see the two kind of like major scenes in the third episode are the penultimate scene, once again, where Dave and Lauren, they're about to host the two Minnesota boys, Dave's buddies. And he once again brings up this old shit. She starts crying. She's like, what do you want me to do, dude? And he's like, I don't know. I need to leave. And he goes out with his Minnesota boys, leaving her alone at the end of the scene. Just a total, I mean, whatever he thinks he's doing, he ain't doing it. He's dropping the ball here.
And he's revealed that he's not staying at the apartment too.
Yeah, exactly. They're not staying
It's like
together.
he's slowly trying to extract himself
Yes.
from the show.
He's trying
Yeah.
to positioning himself on this moral high ground where it's like, I didn't have a serious relationship for 6 months before coming into this experiment. And she's like, yeah, dude, me either. I was just fucking some guy. Chill. But in his mind, he's like, well, that means you were sharing a bed with another man. It's absurd. And I think his life after this show, I don't know what's going to happen in the reunion, but I have to imagine this right now is, I can only assume they're not together, um, is affecting his dating life.
I mean, probably, I would imagine, but then again, maybe some more people are going to his Botox place because of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Botox
there's
business
a
is great.
that's probably what I would pivot into if I were
Yeah.
they made Beauty Lab a big part of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Right.
There is precedent. I'm very curious. I'm very curious how they are going to play all of this out.
Mm.
Um, oh, he also reveals, by the way, that he knows the Friends with Benefits, that he has met him a couple times
Yes.
in this scene.
And some of his Minnesota boys are like good friends with the guy, apparently,
Mm-hmm.
or at least hang
And
out
there's
in the same
something about a
circles.
ski trip, and we get
No
this
idea.
reveal that they live in the same building, which I guess is
Yeah.
just like, I was like, yeah,
Now
is that
that,
a coincidence? I guess Minneapolis is really small.
I mean, I think it's hard to say. The conspiratorial nature of my mind, and after
Mhm.
having covered Bachelor for so long and have found things that they've done on purpose to try and crush people's lives, it's possible that these producers literally did this on purpose to try and
Mhm.
blow this up and get maximum in quotes drama, aka good TV, out of this. That's possible. I also
'Cause
think
there's a
it's
line
possible.
by, I think, Joey in the promo that's like, "The guy lives in the building."
Yeah.
So, it obviously, like, escalates somehow.
But we are in season 8 of this show. Minnesota or Minneapolis is the smallest city I think they've done it in, population wise.
It's, like, the same size as Seattle, I think.
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know
Let
either.
me see. Population.
I think I looked up
Population of
Minneapolis was
Seattle.
450,000 roughly. What's Seattle?
Seattle, 755.
All right. So
Okay,
whatever.
where else did they do it? Denver?
Denver,
Denver,
Chicago,
716K.
Houston,
Charlotte, 911K. Interesting.
Dallas. Those are millions.
Dallas has gotta be big.
Yeah. At any
When are they gonna
rate,
do LA? Come on.
I know. I'm waiting for LA. I'm gonna be a bystander in every. I hope they get a personal trainer. I'll find out who it is and I'll take training sessions and I'll be in there and I'll get everything. I will be the Jorge Moreno bystander of the week in Love is Blind Los Angeles whenever they're shooting it. Guaranteed.
Imagine
Mark
the
me
40
words.
WR accusations of people just trying to be Hollywood and
Yeah.
stuff.
That guy's just in there lifting those weights to get on camera.
Yeah.
I'll have my flute. I'll be playing my flute
It's
while
so
I'm doing
funny
quad
just to be
extensions.
on camera.
Yeah.
That guy wants to be famous. At the same time being like, he told me it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. I'm just here to lift weights. I promise. I swear. And play this flute. At any rate, we get this moment where we learn all this stuff about him living in the building. I do think it's possible that it is coincidental. I
Yeah.
think in a
I think
small
it's most likely
it's
coincidental, but
me too.
it's
Me
interesting.
too. Nonetheless, it is interesting. I agree because we're starting to see, in that Vulture article you mentioned, Lauren talks about a moment where she got into an elevator and that dude was in the elevator.
Mhm.
Whether they caught that on camera or not, I don't know. If they did, and that guy didn't sign a release form for the footage, they can't use the footage.
Right.
We don't know. At any rate, it ends with Dave walking out of their apartment or her apartment or whatever, whose apartment is, I don't know. But he walks out to go have his night out with his Minnesota boys, leaving his fiance to cry herself to sleep. Huge error. Now we have what was my favorite scene of the entire 3 drop with
Yep.
Ben and Sarah. They are having a good time, cuddling up on the couch. He gets up. It looks like your beer's empty. Let me get you a refill. She says, give me a local beer, please. A beautiful moment for all Minnesotans, for all
Mhm.
Minneapolians. What's a Minneapolis person called? Minneapolisite?
Polly's?
Polly's?
I don't know.
What?
Maybe?
We don't know. But she wants a locally brewed beer, and he gets up to get it for her. He brings it back to her. And before he can even sit down, she's saying, oh my God, it's someone. And she's scrolling through her phone. Somebody has said her something very bad. And it winds up being that TikTok that somebody made during the shooting of the season, an ex of Ben's, basically, or in some capacity, an ex. We know what he claims. But Sarah is watching the video. This woman is crying. And the video basically says, I can't believe they keep casting these pieces of shit guys on these reality dating shows. And it's referring to him. And he sits down and
Meta.
he's made to answer for this. This moment, Sarah, well, let me just say this. He sits down and he says, I don't even know who that is. Well, I do know who it is, but we stopped talking 4 years ago. We never even kissed. Or maybe we kissed. And maybe we did talk after 4 years, but she was the one
Yeah.
who brought it all up. And it wasn't me. And we definitely didn't hook up. And I don't know what's going on here. And you're just like, all right, dude, she got you dead to rights. You got to own up to this. The only out here is by saying, yes, I did treat her bad and I always felt bad about it. I ghosted her, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a different person now. And what I had with her, it was just a casual thing. But even that, I did behave poorly in that. You have to own up to it. He does no such thing. He lies, 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 pivots,
He is
pivots, pivots.
constantly lying. I
Yeah.
mean, it is a comedy of errors, this scene, in which it just slowly gets unraveled, his story, and then he's like, "Oh, yeah, who is that? Oh, wait, actually, oh, yeah, I've already seen that video." But then you're like, "Okay, so you didn't share with me that that video
Yeah,
existed. That's a
exactly.
lie of omission." Um, Sarah's face seeing this controversial TikTok video sent to her was my faceplay of the game.
Oh, God.
The
Yeah.
energy shift in the conversation post that is, you can feel it.
Mhm.
It's, and I agree. This was the most exciting scene for me to watch, in this drop.
Totally.
Loved it.
You know what? I think my faceplay was probably the boyfriend with the flute. When he's fluting, he's really like,
Oh,
he
yeah.
has some good eyebrow play. But
What a good boyfriend
Sarah's,
play, you know?
what's that?
Giving so much. You know, as the SO of a person whose sibling is on the show, you can kinda just phone it in, but he was
Mhm.
playing his little heart out.
I agree.
I
Totally for the
appreciate
wrong
it.
reasons. However, in this conversation with Ben, when he's trying to deflect and like, it's no big deal. Let's move on. How's your beer? And she's like, no, no, no. Hang on a minute. Why is she crying? Sarah's unrelenting pressuring Ben to crumble under the weight of the truth was my play of the game. I just loved it. We're at a point in this relationship, maybe in the show, maybe in America, I don't know, where you can't do that no more. The gaslighting, the deflecting, the lying, it ain't gonna fly. At least with Sarah, it ain't gonna fly. And we
She says,
cliffhang on
"This
this.
investigation is happening now. You
Yeah.
don't get to talk to anyone before this conversation
Yeah.
happens." Oh, so
She
good.
Jodie Foster's here. You're asking the wrong questions. You're saying the wrong lies. And so she just comes full court press on him like, "No, dude, what the hell's going on?" And we cliffhang basically on how is this conversation going to resolve? Will this destroy their relationship? Will he be able to trick her into moving past it? We don't know. But clearly he's caught in a lie here. And we already know that there are some, kind of scandalous things being said about him online,
Mhm.
giving women a YouTube or a business card that says follow me on YouTube after he had sex with them. I'm sure this woman in the TikTok was probably a recipient of one of those cards. So we don't know.
Ooh, reveal the
We don't know.
card.
Yeah. But that's where the three drop ended with this moment. Who was your MVP of this iteration?
For her unrelenting performance in the wake of Dave trying to slut shame the friends with benefits thing. And I mean, it also goes back to like the first episodes. Lauren
Yeah.
was my MVP. I'm surprised she didn't get the most Instagram followers because I feel like she's getting a victimization edit
Mhm.
from this whole storyline, and she doesn't give it up for a second. She's like, he might be looking for the out, but she is going to make him work for it,
Yeah.
and that is how you get the best victimization edit.
No, I agree.
Oh yeah. Who's your MVP?
Lauren was also my MVP.
Hmm.
That idea that like it's in any way admissible to say you had sex before you came in here, thereby that invalidates whatever feelings you think you have for me or whatever. It can't stand, and she's not apologizing at all for this in any
No.
of these scenes. She's saying, "Yes, I had sex with this guy before I came in, and it wasn't a serious thing." I think she even at one point says, "We never like stayed over the night," because he brings that up. "You were
Mhm.
sleeping like what we were doing last night, cuddling in the bed. You were doing with some other
Yeah.
guy." And she's like,
Nope.
"No, dude, it was
Never
just
slept
fucking."
over.
Yeah. She's like, "No, no, no. We were fucking. You and I aren't doing that." She didn't say that, but it's getting to that point where like he's hammering her so hard on it. You can tell like she's hanging on to try and be in the show, maybe, or maybe she does have some
Mhm.
actual feelings for him or whatever. But I absolutely loved that she just wouldn't give in to his kind of implied demand of like, you better apologize for this. She's like,
Yeah,
no, fuck you.
me too.
I loved it. And I wish her nothing but the best in the rest of the season. We will have another recap out next Monday after a
By
two
the
drop.
way,
Yeah.
she's also participating in the Love is Blind Sauce Wars. She posted an
Yes.
Instagram story this week in which she calls out the editors of the show doing her dirty and says that the scene in which it makes it look like she got a bikini wax so she couldn't have sex, she's
Mhm.
actually saying, "I got a bikini wax and the person said I can't do spin class." So obviously a very
Mm.
different meaning conveyed in that scene than what
Yeah.
was shown.
Well, I mean, that to me is like half the fun of covering these shows, especially in the gameplay aspect, is trying to see through the document you're given to see what really happened, and then what
Mhm.
is being presented and why is it being presented that way. Just like we did with the the meetup at the in Honduras when they're all on their honeymoon and all the couples meet for the first time. That scene was so short and so cut to shit. I just they were manufacturing whatever they could out of it, and it was boring
Mhm.
as hell. Everybody's just like, "Yep, everybody's great. Everybody's great." And Dave's like, "Who had sex?" That's the whole scene.
Mhm.
And I think it's because they had to cut around somebody else. That's the only thing that makes sense
Yeah.
to me.
I think so too. I do like yeah, there's been a lot of theories of, like, why they are structuring this season so differently than they have before, why they cast it so
Mhm.
differently than they have before. Um, and I think it's, like, maybe there was that overcorrection of, like, trying to do more pod episodes or trying to
Yeah.
involve people whose storylines, like, don't get engaged or whatever. Um, and I think it's, like, something of the audiences of the show where it's, like, sometimes audiences will be like, "We wanna see more of this," but it's, like, they don't really know what they want sometimes.
Oh, damn, spoken like a true producer. I
Sorry,
know what's
I'm just
best
saying,
for the
like,
audience.
you want all these people to be happy all the time. No, you want conflict.
But they're
That's
not
more
even, like,
compelling to
happy in an
watch.
interesting way other than Joey and Monica. The rest of them are just kinda like, "Yeah, you're
Yeah.
the best. I don't know, I have this slight problem with this thing."
Thank you.
It's just like
Thank
a
you.
that was my favorite part, maybe the whole season. Well, let me ask you this then, in closing of
Yeah.
this recap, is this
Yeah.
the worst season of Love Is Blind that has ever existed?
So far,
In
yes.
the US, I mean.
Is it the most interesting is it the least interesting for me? No.
Yeah, right. You
I'm
have
like,
some personal
"Dang,
involvement.
what is gonna happen?" But yeah, I don't know what is going on with this
Mhm.
season. I hope we get a new one quickly to erase our memories of it.
Well, there's usually 2 a year, so we'll see what happens. I also, for what it's worth, I didn't
What do
watch.
you think?
I think it's the worst season in US history,
Yeah.
yes, for a wide variety of reasons. Boring, the most of the important action or information is happening outside the show from
Yeah.
people that they've dated, or a TikTok comes in, or did you follow me on Instagram? So it's like we're
And
not seeing.
sloppily constructed in how we're getting that
Yes, it's
information.
terrible. This is a phoned in season, and I don't know what they had to work with. Maybe this is the best version of that season. I don't really know, but we can't really know if it's truly a good season that is just misproduced, or if it's like a bad season top to bottom and they're doing the best they can. In either case, I think it's the worst season so far. However, I did see a TikTok about Love Is Blind Argentina, where a woman who's on that show is saying the guy she wound up with tried to kill her. So I didn't watch that season. I just saw the TikTok. That seems like it could be a worse season. I don't know. Anyways,
Jesus Christ.
yes.
Oh, no.
Thank you all for joining
Well,
us.
we will be covering the rest of this season no matter what happens. Hopefully nothing like that will happen. And yeah, I just want to send out another reminder. These are real people. You're seeing
Yeah.
a completely edited product. Don't send any mean messages. Praise be, Dark Lord's Lachey.